All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, and we are back talking 1975 movies. This is the second one that we've done this month. We are reviewing movies that came out the year I was born. And tonight we're going to be talking about 1975's The Return of the Pink Panther, which is a movie that I saw so long ago that you practically couldn't even call it. I couldn't recall like almost anything about this movie other than the general stuff that usually happens in one of these movies. So thanks again for watching these. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. If you're returning, thanks for watching these. This is a lot of fun, and this one in particular, this was a lot of fun to watch. Again, this is written and directed by Blake Edwards, who's done movies like 10, and that movie in the 80s with John Ritter with the glowing condoms called Skin Deep. The guy's been all over the place, and he even made Breakfast at Tiffany's. So the guy who made Breakfast at Tiffany's, one of these like classic movies, is also responsible for the scene where it's with John Ritter, where it's black and all you can see in the room is a guy running around with a glow-in-the-dark condom on. So, take that as you will. This movie came out in May 21st of 1975, and that makes it exactly 2 months and about 4 or 5 days since it happened. I'm trying to figure out how to share this video without freaking leaving the screen really quickly, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to shoot over to my YouTube channel, and for some reason, see if I can get this to pop up. There we go. I'm going to be watching myself talk to myself for a second so I can share this quickly on Twitter to let everybody know what we're doing before I start talking about the movie. And for some, what a pain in the ass. There has to be a better way of letting people know that your video is going on live. So here we go. All right. Tweet. So unprofessional. Okay. All right. So back to it. All right. So yeah, I wasn't even born yet when this movie came out. But the thing is I do have a connection to the Pink Panther movies. And that's a lot of my memories that I use to connect with things are from times that I was at the movies. And 3 of my earliest memories in my entire life come from the movies. One is seeing Empire Strikes Back when I was real little. 2 was seeing Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And 3 was seeing Revenge of the Pink Panther in 1978. And the memories are just vague, foggy recollections. I recall the theater. I recall being in the theater. But my memory can't be trusted any further than that. But I remember that those were the 3 movies from my childhood that I can perfectly remember knowing that I was there. And when I grew up, my family really liked these movies, and I guess I liked the cartoon part because I was a kid. I never got into the actual movies. I didn't appreciate Peter Sellers until it was into the 90s when I saw Dr. Strangelove for the first time. And I started diving into more Peter Sellers stuff. And I really also dug the biopic that was made probably a while ago now with Jeffrey Rush playing Peter Sellers, talking about the difficulties that he had feeling like He didn't want to do all these Inspector Clouseau movies. You know, he didn't want to repeat himself. He wanted to do so many things. He reminds me of like when John Lennon wanted to get out of the Beatles. You know, it's like, yeah, I'm really successful at this, but I want to try new things. But he ended up doing several of these. And this one, since I hadn't seen it in so long, I only thought it was just going to be fine. It was going to be all right. It was going to be fine. And I really liked this movie. Is it dated? Sure, it's 1975. There's a lot of things that they got away with back then that you couldn't really get away with now. There's a few troubling spots in this about, you know, certain ways that Clouseau talks about Cato using the term yellow, about his manservant and having a manservant in general, you know. But, you know, if we didn't watch movies, if we stopped watching movies because we were troubled by a few of the things that movies back in the day did, there'd be a shitload of movies we just wouldn't watch. And hell, you can say that about some movies that were just for like 20 years ago. And I really dug this movie. You know, this is a jewel heist movie, and I don't really get into, I love heist movies, but I don't care about jewels. I've never cared about diamonds or any of that stuff. I've never understood it, other than, yeah, I get it, they're rare. But I've never felt like, and this is bad, you know, I always wondered why jewelry was so important to some people. It's, you know, but hey, why are comic books? Whatever. You like what you like, right? But this is 1975, and I thought that the heist scene in this movie was really well done considering it's 1975. It was really kind of sophisticated, and I thought it was really planned out. Now, to be fair, you know, this is like the fourth film. And so this thing's been stolen how many times? So it's like the security on this place is ridiculous. Even though they try to say that, oh, we've got all this, that, and the other, all that setup is so that you know, they just have to be more clever at how they steal the diamond. Now, I remember the cartoon openings, and they're great, and Pink Panther is iconic. It's an iconic symbol. But I think even more iconic is Henry Mancini's theme. Everybody knows the theme. It's really cool. You know, they play it subtly throughout the whole movie. And the rest of the score to this is great. I'm glad that it wasn't filled with, like, again, you know, that this was when movies had these really great scores from really great people like John Williams with Jaws coming out, you know, this same year. And I was glad that there wasn't like a bunch of pop music that I had to like think about from the time period this came out. But it is drenched in 1970s. There's a scene where where Clouseau walks through his apartment, and he's got the beads like as curtains almost, like separating the room. And I remember that being such a big thing, people having beads everywhere. And there's still people that have the bead curtains, but I thought that was just so great. And the way everything is just styled, so 70s. There's closets in here that look like walls. I thought that was really, really cool. The set design is really great. But yeah, you don't get much more iconic. I mean, Henry Mancini's Pink Panther theme has to be really high up there as far as iconic songs goes. Another thing I was really happy with is that although the original guy who played the Phantom in these is David Niven, who was an incredible actor, he couldn't be a part of this film, and so they cast Christopher Plummer as the Phantom in this. And Christopher Plummer he recently passed, and I did the math, and he's literally like the same age as me now as he was in the making of this film. And so I thought that was really cool reflection of it all. Like, you know, how they looked back then, and how 45 looked back then, and how 45 looks now. Maybe it doesn't look anything different, you know, but I look at it, I think styles make us look a little different too. But Christopher Plummer is excellent in this. So is the rest of the cast. We have returning actor who plays his long-suffering boss, Dreyfus, Herbert Loam. Herbert Loam is fantastic in all of these movies. He's hilarious. You got, I believe she's a Bond girl from Her Majesty's Secret Service. Catherine Shell is in this too, and you can tell when you're watching this movie all the influence it had on pop culture, on other filmmakers. I was like, this had to be like how they, a part of it was of Inspector Gadget had to be based on Inspector Clouseau. I would say Austin Powers had to be sort of based on Inspector Clouseau. I know that's a mix of James Bond, but I almost feel like Clouseau was almost some sort of kind of, he wasn't a spy or anything, but he was always trying to be a spy. And I thought he was kind of a bumbling, version of a James Bond character, except completely inept, completely not self-aware at all, completely full of himself, because he solved the case, and then they think everybody around him thinks that he can do that job because he did it once and he did it, he solved it by accident. And so he just kind of keeps failing upwards as the sane people watch the world crumble around him as he just fumbles his way through things. And I just think that that's great. The accidental crime solver, the guy who just kind of unwittingly ends up at the end where he needs to be. And this movie is pretty predictable as far as like the where it's going. You can see in almost every scene where it's going to go, but it didn't stop it from being any less funny at all. And I think that probably probably because I hadn't seen it in so long, that the newness of this movie, just, I was laughing out loud. I snorted like twice during this movie. I slapped my knee down. I guess that's, I felt like an old person when I did a knee slapper. Where I literally was like, oh, because this really has some laugh out loud moments. As long as you don't like, if you like really well done physical humor, which Peter Sellers is fantastic at. He's not just good at that. He does such great character work, and the creation of Clouseau is, again, as iconic as the animated Panther itself. Another cool thing about these movies, and I'll just talk about this one and assume that this happens in a lot of them, is that you've got the Pink Panther diamond getting stolen, and Clouseau getting brought in to fumble his way to figuring, not even figuring it out. He literally just it falls into his lap. But that there's a second movie going on in this movie that's really serious for the characters involved. And so I really love that there's all these great scenes, like even the very beginning heist, the jewel stealing scene is really tense and really well done, and very seriously. And continuing off that, there's who do we call, and then finding out who, going whenever we have Christopher Plummer and his wife and all that stuff, and him trying to get to the bottom of it, because they all think he stole the diamond. And so there's this whole other movie about Christopher Plummer trying to find the real thief of the Pink Panther diamond, because he didn't do it. And they do a good job even at the beginning of maybe making you go, maybe he did and he's just really playing it off. But he really didn't do it. So there's really this movie going on about a master thief who had the Pink Panther diamond stolen. And because of his record and because of people knowing without being able to prove that he's this master thief, that now people are after him for stealing something that he didn't do, and he has to solve this crime himself. Meanwhile, you have Clouseau, who's just bumbling his way through every scene, and it's just that's fantastic. I love that idea of there's actually something else going on here, and there's like, it's political intrigue. There's this whole conspiracy of the diamond being stolen. And we're spoiling this, by the way. It's 1975. You've had plenty of chances to see it. That the person who really stole it is doing it. Well, it turns out it's his wife that stole it. But the stealing of the diamond itself is letting the fictional country of Lugash the guy who's running the show, he's able to do a lot of things internally in that government that he's been wanting to do. And by actually solving the crime, if he solves it too fast, he won't have time to remove his political opponents. That's some deep shit for this like slapstick comedy. And so they mix all that stuff up in there really, really good. I do want to point out the people in the chat, Devra and Rena, talking about this. I'd hardly call this a heist movie other than the opening and some parts at the end. Yeah, I guess it's not too much of a heist movie. There's the aspect of a jewel theft and them trying to figure out how, him trying to figure out who did it and everything. I think Three Stooges, Clouseau's stuff, I think everything can go back to that kind of time period, like with Buster Keaton and Laurel and Hardy and the Three Stooges. Oh, and yeah, they clearly used physical like stunt doubles. You could see in some of the scenes with Clouseau and Kato that they were clearly doing good, actually wire work, which I thought was really cool that they were doing wire work back in the 1970s this good and trying new things like that they were doing in the fight scenes. Rena saying the mispronunciation of the dialogue. Yeah. How many takes to get through each scene too. Yeah. It's so, one of the things I love is that Clouseau is French in every scene. And even when he's trying to do an accent, he's failing at it, but he thinks he's like a master of disguise. He thinks he's a master of stealth. He thinks all these things about himself, and everybody knows who he is. That's another great part of this movie, is that he is so unaware of how obvious he is that even the people involved in the actual crimes, they just they don't find him a threat because he's that big of a dummy. And so they just kind of put up with him, and they have a hard time not laughing in front of him because they know what's up. And so it's, they purposely mislead him, but not in a hurtful way. They don't ever like try to kill him, because that's the real danger for Clouseau comes from his own boss, played by, again, Herbert Lom, who's so great in this. Right from the get-go, this is where you get to see the tics and everything that being around Clouseau causes him. You get the great gag with the lighter gun that happens 3 times. They do the rule of 3 on a few of these gags and running gags in this film. He shoots almost his face off, then he shoots his like nose off, then he shoots the guy that works with him because he keeps switching up the guns. It's really, really, really funny. And by the end of the movie, he's just completely ticked out. And the scene where Clouseau comes to him after getting nearly blown up, he tries to straight up murder him in his office. And Clouseau is so clueless as to what's going on. And it's just, he's pulling the gun, he's just firing at him, like trying to shoot him, and the gun won't go off. AJB also is in the chat. Nice seeing you too, man. Which we need to talk about the Kato stuff. All right. Because this again was one of the other highlights of the stuff that I remembered when I was a kid, was him and his manservant would always try to ambush each other in the apartment. And I can see like how these movies are very formulaic and they follow a lot of the same rules, and by each movie they keep having to up the ante. And I can also see why Peter Sellers would be kind of tired of doing that, but it's really funny how they do it in these movies. And again, following the rule of 3, it happens 3 times in the movie. Once at the beginning when he gets ambushed in the freezer, which was really funny. He just comes popping out of the freezer at him. And like also we get to see some of that wire work in this scene. Later, he tries to attack him in his closet in his hotel, and then third in the Japanese restaurant is it Chinese restaurant? Yeah, it's the Chinese restaurant at the end of the movie. There's a third attack. They're all really well done, all kind of really ahead of its time, and poking fun, I think, more than being racist. I think that they're kind of poking fun at things like the Green Hornet and stuff like that. But it was popular back then, like stuff like that. And so it may not fly anymore as well, but I thought they were all really well done. In fact, the gentleman who played Kato, Burt Kwok, he died in like 2016. In fact, almost everybody in this cast lived way longer than Peter Sellers. Plummer just died, and both the guy who plays Herbert Lom, who played Dreyfus, he passed, and he was like in his 90s. So just really, really cool stuff. Let's see, where else do we have here? You have these, like I said, this has a serious movie going on despite Clouseau's bumbling. And I loved these scenes that would start out serious, like the scene in the museum where he first goes there to inspect the crime scene. And these guys are all about business. They want their jewel back. And I love how each moment of seriousness is undercut by Clouseau's little bumblings, and how they keep upping by the end of the scene. So like in that, let's say at the beginning of that scene in in the museum, first it's the door going down, then he slips on the wax, then he hits himself in the groin with the tool that he used to pick up the diamond, then his hat pops off on the wire, and then finally he drops this huge disc that knocks over a statue. All these scenes start small, and it's almost like a Goldberg machine, like the Goldberg variation of cause and effect, except not too much. Like he's the cause of everything, and his effect on the story, he almost doesn't even realize it. And it happens like whether he goes to vacuum somebody's room or even trying to just get out of the bathtub, it causes complete chaos. And he never just breaks. And again, like we were talking about the way he talks and mispronounces things, I would find it so hard to get through scenes of him just doing silly stuff, not even speaking. One of the funniest gags in the entire movie for me was when he goes up to what he thinks is a safe in the hotel, and it's just a clock radio. And they play it so well that when he finds out it's a clock radio, I actually didn't know it was a clock radio, and I thought that was just so well done. Or the light bulb popping out of the lamp, and eventually him getting shocked. It's just all so well done. And so again, you have this serious movie where Christopher Plummer is trying to find out who really stole the diamond. Like I said, he figures it out like probably 2/3 of the way through the movie, not even that. It's just now he's trying to get back to his wife, who he knows like a long time ago that she did it. And for them, in the end, it's just kind of this lark. They're bored, so she steals something, and they treat the whole thing after the fact like it's nothing. Like, oh, it's just another silly Tuesday. My wife stole the Pink Panther diamond. But they all almost got killed over it. Yeah, there's the taxi driver moment where that taxi driver, like De Niro, follow that cab, and the taxi driver goes running after the cab. Or the moment where the guy asks for his hat, coat, and gloves, like a concierge or somebody at the hotel to take your coat, and it turns out he's just being grifted by a guy who likes to steal coats, gloves, and hats. There's so many fantastic little jokes in this movie, not just Peter Sellers fumbling around. I mean, they nail his character right from the beginning of this film. You know everything you need to know about Clouseau without ever seeing any of these other movies too. You can just come in and understand these. You don't have to watch all of them. In the very first scene, when he goes up to an organ grinder, right? He's got an accordion and a monkey. And it's the simple scene of telling the musician that he needs a license to be out there making money with a monkey. And the whole discussion he gets into with this man, and not knowing that the bank right next to them, while you can see the robbery going on the inside, is happening. He's arguing with a man over his minky. And he even helps the criminals escape. because he just so is not aware of his own surroundings. And it's just fantastic. And Peter Sellers, it makes me want to do a Peter Sellers month one of these days. We just dive far into the catalog of Peter Sellers' work, because he died when he was like 55 years old. He died in like 1980. He died before David Niven died. And David Niven, who played the original Phantom, died in 83. So he was only 55 years old, which is only 9 years and a few months from when I'll be 55. And I'm like, holy shit. Puts things into perspective. And I'm trying to think if there's any other thing that we really need to talk about. Oh, yeah. Kahlua and ginger ale. He orders, I'd like another Kahlua and ginger ale. Holy crap. That is one of the most disgusting drinks I have ever heard of in my life. And another really funny joke near the end. And I don't normally tell the jokes because I tell people, oh, let you hear a joke once, you know, it loses its power. But when his boss calls him and he's like, I'm the guy who hates you. That's how you know it's like, you know, who is this? I'm the guy who hates you. Well, are you the head waiter of this diner, like this little cafe in France? I loved it so much. And in the end, it's Dreyfus who saves the day. The colonel from Lugash shows up when everything comes together, right? Christopher Plummer shows up, tells his wife, I know what you did. And then Sharky comes in, and then Clouseau comes in the middle of it, bumbles everything. And it's Dreyfus who's going to kill Clouseau with a sniper rifle that actually solves and saves everybody on accident. And Clouseau saves the day himself on accident by falling for one of his own jokes, which is he told Cato earlier in the movie, your fly is undone. The criminal says, well, that's funny, so is yours. He goes to check it. When Clouseau ducks, Dreyfus shoots the criminal, meaning to shoot Clouseau. And then it's found out that Dreyfus is the one shooting from across the way, and he's the one who ends up in Bellevue, while Clouseau ends up with his job. And Dreyfus at the end of the movie is seeing the Pink Panther in the insane asylum. And so again, it's like failing upwards. He's driven the competent man insane, and the incompetent is the one who rises to the surface and gets the job that he doesn't deserve. And that is so true in life. There are so many people that fail upwards, while the regular ass people that struggle to survive in this world end up going crazy because of it. And I think that's a hilarious commentary without, you know, hidden within this movie. And so that's the Return of the Pink Panther. I am really, really glad that we watched it. I'm really, really glad that I actually get to talk about one of these movies. And so anyway, before this goes on any longer, if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. I am not 100% sure which movie we're going to do next, but that'll be coming up sometime later this week when you decide to watch one of those again. I'm thinking Killer Elite. I'm thinking maybe Killer Elite or the Stepford Wives, I think, is another one that came out this year. Yeah, this is a proper farce. Absolutely, Sarah. So anyway, thanks for watching. But if you hated every single thing I said and disagree with how I thought of what the Return of the Pink Panther was, please, I can give you a new memory. All of you who did like it, please look away as I decide to give you back your memory and to make you think of something else. Oh, wait. Why is my camera on? Are we doing a review? Holy crap. What is Return of the Pink Panther? I've always wanted to see that movie. It's been so long since I've seen this movie. But, oh my God, I'm live? I got to end this broadcast. All right. Bye, everybody. Somebody's going to have to tell me what just happened.